Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin, and with me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey.
This week, we'll be discussing the immortal horror classic, Blacula, starring some people
who were big in the 70s and all have like a strange Star Trek connection, either Next Generation or original Star Trek.
They also were all in episodes of In the Heat of the Night, the TV series.
Yes. I kept looking at that one chick while I was watching the movie. I was like, she looks so familiar.
And the actor who played Blacula, this is all behind the scenes, but I'm jumping right in, was most famous to me in my childhood because he was the king of cartoons.
King of cartoons!
On Pee-wee's Playhouse. So there you go.
I remember it, but now I have perfect clarity. I was like, that's it. He may have did Othello on Broadway or whatever, but I remember him as the king of cartoons.
This is a side note, if you ever go back and watch Pee-wee's Playhouse, you'll see Larry Fishburne, you'll see Phil Hartman. All-star cast.
I used to have the Larry Fishburne. That's back when he was Larry.
Back when he was Larry.
He became Lawrence.
Highfalutin.
I still have Cowboy Curtis, although I lost his hat, action figure.
And Captain Carl?
Not Captain Carl. I used to have a whole bunch of them.
And Reba, the mail lady?
Reba, who is in everything.
That
was an all-star cast. Oh, poor Phil Hartman.
It's a sad situation.
I really wish his wife hadn't murdered him. That was a sad, dark day.
That was a sad, dark day. Let's jump on in. Give us the 30-second synopsis for Blacula.
I thought we were still going to be talking about the Malkovich and the young Pope. Because that is dynamite, man. It's so sacrilegious.
We'll have to save that for the new Pope, young Pope, two Popes podcast.
But as part of my spin out, has Malkovich been in any horror movies?
Has Malkovich Dangerous Liaisons? I don't know.
Oh my God, he was so good at Dangerous Liaisons. He is freaking amazing.
Terrifying.
That's one of my favorite movies. But no, you can't think of any, can you?
Nothing's jumping to mind.
No, I don't think he's ever done a horror movie.
Yeah. Keep in mind that the audience has not heard our previous conversation about Malkovich, so
That's why we should never speak unless it's being recorded.
I always feel that way. We're dropping pearls on the floor, never to be seen again.
Exactly, man. Lost to the ages.
Lost to the ages. So tell us about Blacula, damn it.
Back to Blacula. Now, I had never seen this before, but something told me when I had the free weekend of MGM high definition that I should hit record.
Okay.
All right, so here it is. Here's the story of Blacula. So, before he's Blacula, he is a prince from some African country. He and his wife go to, I don't know, Transylvania to meet with Count Dracula to try to discourage the slave trade. It seems like how much slave tradery was going on in Transylvania. You think you might want to go to like America or like England or something.
Right.
But his choice was Transylvania. And guess what? That old dirty Dracula did not respect the rights of guests, and was putting the moves. He wanted to take a bite out of his wife. He was deeply offended, and Dracula got all racial and stuff. So, brought out the ghouls, cursed him with vampirism, nailed him in a coffin, and left his wife there to starve to death next to his coffin. As Kevin says, flash, bang, smash, whatever, action shot.
That's exactly what I say.
So it was like 1780, and then the next thing you know, it's 1970s. And let me just say this movie is not politically correct.
It's the 70s, or it's 72. What do you want?
Let's just say the word faggot is used almost as much as the N-word.
Yeah. We're going to call
Shocking.
it the F word going forward.
But then
And-
that sounds like that gets the F word.
That's true. It's not a good word to use
No.
in any case. But you're right. They dropped that all the live long day.
I was like, oh dear. I think I even have notes on how many more groups will they offend in this first 10 minutes. Because first of all, the whole thing is offensive about the vampires, and they're killing them because, you know, they got uppity or whatever. So they murdered them. Oh. Next thing you know, you're just besmirching the gay community, one, with these over-the-top. It was like if Benny Hill was trying to be a gay guy. Not only they're gay, they're interracial. Ooh.
Well, they're antique buyers and sellers who went to Transylvania to buy all of the furniture from Castle Dracula.
Yeah, so there was a Castle Dracula was having a going out of business sale. So they literally went in there and was buying everything that wasn't just nailed to the floor, including old coffins, I don't know, and bags of dust. And do they still ship things in barrels in the 70s? I haven't seen that since like a Laurel and Hardy show. Anyway, of course, they have this great idea that they're going to put this coffin. What did they say in their bedroom?
And I think it was in their guest room.
In their guest
to freak
room.
people out.
Yeah, because that's what you did, I guess, when you're gay and in the 70s. So
pretty standard.
Offensive. So of course they're like, I wonder what's in here. Gee, I wonder what's inside a freaking coffin. So they pry it open, and then they got distracted because the blonde gentleman cut himself. I was like, oh, that ain't good. You got an open coffin and an open wound. Blacula rises up and goes for it. End of the nice interior decorators. They're all gone.
Yep.
Anyway, to cut the story short, now I've gone on into a Kevin tirade.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You're like the Kevin.
I'm going full. Let me just say this. Vampire, African American, or actually in this case he's just supposed to be African. Vampire wakes up in the 70s LA, sees a chick who looks like his wife. This is straight out of The Mummy. And she feels the connection to people don't want their friend to date a vampire. Problems ensue. Everybody's dead. The end.
Let me jump in real quick. You're absolutely right. Let me ask you, how did you know it was supposed to be L.A.? Because I was convinced it was New York.
Oh.
Why did you think why did you think it was L.A.? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just curious.
I don't know. I don't know. Did I read it first? I don't know why I thought it was L.A.
Well, it's supposed to take place in L.A., but it was filmed in New York.
So, why didn't it take place in New York?
I have no idea. These are excellent questions.
You know what? Port of Los Angeles. That's why I know. When the stuff was being sent from Castle Dracula, I saw Port of Los Angeles. Because at first I was confused. I assumed they were buying this castle and moving in.
So was this shipped to what is it, the Mediterranean, and then sailed through the Panama Canal?
Well, maybe it went through the Crimea.
Through the Crimea, could be. I'm not
the Crimea. That's why the Russians needed a winter port, so that's why there's always the Crimea, where there's always a problem.
Crimea River.
So let me just say, it's a long boat ride.
I would say so. It's okay if you're a vampire, though. You can take that time.
We're talking Panama Canal. We're talking a long. I hope there wasn't a big rush for your barrels of dust and decay.
Well, it's like a warehouse full of this stuff. But let me go back. Let me jump in there. You're right. It's like it takes place initially in 1789 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I mean, this guy Prince Mamawalde, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, from an unnamed African country. It could be Wakanda. at this stage of the game.
It may have been Wakanda. We don't know.
Because he said, it's time for us to join kind of the international order. He said something along those lines, which is very Wakandan. But you're right. He was saying we need to get rid of the slave trade. Why is he going to Transylvania?
As I said.
Right. There's no United Nations or anything at this time, but why, like a backwater, no offense to, Romanians that you might know, but like some random Eastern European country to have this conversation?
Exactly. It makes no damn sense. Maybe there's some secret history that we don't. Was this on an episode of Drunk History that we don't know that the seat of the slave trade is in Transylvania? And it may have been Transylvania back then.
It could have been. Transylvania is just part of Romania. It's like a region within Romania.
Oh my God! I feel like I have to historically Google this.
Google it up. But so Prince I'm going to mess up his name. Namawalde. He doesn't know obviously that Count Dracula is a vampire. He doesn't know that. I guess he just thinks he's just the count.
He's just the count.
Just the count of...
And quite frankly, I believe Count Dracula was around... Dracul was around a few centuries before this, but, maybe...
That is correct. You need a degree in history to understand this.
Yeah, but, he's a vampire, so he's already dead, so who knows?
But another thing that you pointed out, which is absolutely true, that reoccurring motif of my wife from 300 years ago, I see her doppelganger roaming around. It was in The Mummy, like you said. It was in Bram Stoker's Dracula. They've hit that drum 1,000 times, where it's like, I'm oceans of time.
Well, usually the lady
to find you.
I think in The Mummy, of course, he was crusty as dust. So she was like, oh, no, hard pass. But in the more recent, the vampires are definitely more sexy than
an old crusty mummy. That is true.
Than old crusty Boris Karloff. So I can see why they'd be like, yeah, sure. I remember you from like a couple lives ago. Yeah, I'm down. Because quite frankly, Blacula has this deep, rich baritone voice.
He is charming.
He has a beautiful voice. He's good looking, and he's
elegant,
6'5",
cultured. No question. I'll say this:
French champagne, please.
He never does say I never drink wine. But I'll say this: the actor who played Blacula in this, William Marshall, is really good.
Yeah,
he is quite good. Because you're right, his voice is very cultured, and he was great. But one thing, he's like half the time he looks like the way he did in 1789, but occasionally he totally vamp out, get these huge crazy eyebrows. Weird, like fur on his cheeks.
Yes, I was like, "What? Is he a werewolf? What the hell is happening now?"
Well, I thought they were maybe like lamb chop sideburns, or pork chop sideburns. One of the chops,
pork chops,
mutton chops. But they're not connected to his sideburns, and they're not connected to his mustache. So it's just a weird outgrowth on his cheeks. Terrifying. But you're right. We quickly meet the gay interior decorator, antique dealers, kills them, and this is where we first learn that this. Jump in.
It was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire at that time.
Wait a minute. The Austro-Hungarian?
The Habsburgs, man.
I was just checking, because the Austro-Hungarian Empire is different than the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Thank you.
I'm exhibiting a finger to you, and I'd like you to guess which one it is.
It's probably not a good one.
It's the F word, but not the F word you're trying to catch on. That's not going to work.
Oh, sweet Lord. One thing earlier in the movie I noticed. So Dracula and Blacula, soon to be Blacula, are angry with each other. They start fighting, and Dracula calls like his henchmen over, these dudes in tuxedos who start fighting with Prince Mamawulde. and there's a huge sword on the wall. And Prince Mamuwalde pulls the torch? He leaves the sword on the wall, pulls a torch, and tries to ward off the attackers. They promptly pull the huge sword off the wall and try to attack him with it. But if you're watching, when they cut to Mamuwalde kind of warding them off with the torch, you still see the sword hanging behind him on the wall.
Oh, for
even
sure.
though the other guys.
There's a few continuity issues. The bandage with the lovers.
Yes.
Where they're wrapping that arm. They've wrapped it for 20 minutes and it never gets in.
There's
and then all
definitely
of
some
a sudden
continuity.
it's wrapped to the elbows. Yeah, that was not a big thing for them.
Now, you may not, if you're not paying attention, you may not realize Blacula was hip deep in the blaxploitation period of the cinema. So it was like first of many of these kind of horror themed kind of things. There's a lot of jive turkey and honky and things like that going on.
I read the next year there was a Blackenstein.
There was Blackenstein, and a few years later there was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Black.
Oh dear.
They not quite as clever when the years passed on. That was with Bernie Casey. So check
really?
them out. Oh yeah, there was a whole thing, and there were actually other blaxploitation horror movies at this time, but those are the three big ones that I was thinking of. Anyway, but what we were saying is there's like a cavalcade of actors in this.
Oh my God! You're like, I know that dude from somewhere.
From somewhere, and I'm like skimming through. I'm like, I mean, maybe he was on one episode of the Cosby Show. I mean, is this what I'm remembering him from?
Oh
Go
man,
ahead.
there was all now, and the tragedy is the dude who plays Blacula really didn't do that much. I mean, he did.
No.
He had a long career, but not at the level that some of these other actors he's with. And he was good. I don't know what happened.
I mean, he was arguably the star of the show. I mean, not just in title, but in ability. I mean, in presence, he was dynamite.
So I wonder what the backstory is, because everybody else definitely had, I would say, a more successful career.
No question. So basically, we've got Blacula is out running around. We also meet the sisters, whose names have just leapt out of my mind. Do you remember what the characters' names were? Here we go. Tina.
I stopped writing this stuff down because you always have this damn stuff memorized.
Yeah. Tina and Michelle are sisters. And they're hanging out with Michelle's husband, Dr. Gordon Thomas, who we meet.
I couldn't figure out what he was doing because he was trying to do an autopsy in a coffin. What is he, a coroner? What is he?
They said he's
a hobby doctor or hobby.
No, it was. It was basically something along the lines of he said he worked for the police department. He was like a medical investigator or something, because he goes. We meet one of the guys who was killed by Blacula. They cut to he's in the funeral home and they're checking him out. You know, oh, so strange. You know, what's going on? Dr. Gordon, he like interrogates the guy running the morgue or whatever. What am I trying to say? The mortician?
Yes.
You know, what's going on? Oh, here are the wounds on the neck. You know, they didn't find any blood at the scene.
Yeah, he's all dressed for the funeral. He's like ripping off the whatever prosthetics they put on to cover up the gaping holes. And he's like tearing it off, looking around.
You know, the mortician's like, oh, it was the strangest rat bite I've ever seen. And Dr. Gordon is like, rat bite? This doesn't look like a rat bite to me. Of course, he's immediately like, oh, it's got to be vampires. Clearly vampires.
He went, boom, vampires.
Jump Street. He's like, it's got to be. I'm not going to, I'm going to keep my suspicions to myself because I realize it's kind of crazy at this stage of the game. I'm still doing my investigation. But he's not skeptical in the slightest. He's like, must be vampires. Smash cut, he's having drinks with Michelle and Tina.
Yeah.
And earlier, crazy old Blacula had assaulted Tina because, of course, Tina is the spitting image of his long dead wife, Luva or something.
Uva? It means,
Uva.
I think that means Oliver egg or something.
I don't think that was correct. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, he like lunges at her and she freaks out and drops her purse. And like is freaking out, like can't be home alone,
Right.
calling people up. Oh, I was assaulted, and they have my purse and everything.
Well, and he wasn't all vamped out at the time either.
No.
He looked normal, and he was just like, Luma, is that you? Don't run away, or something along those lines.
How about the fact she has one drink in her at the bar, and she walks right up to him and has a chit chat with him,
and she's cool with him. At that point,
she gets real cool with him.
Yeah, she's like, I'm down.
Chicka down. You can stalk me.
So they're sitting down having drinks, and then Skillet arrives. Do you remember? Who's just some dude? They know him.
Dude,
he works at the bar.
Everybody in the 70s has some kind of crazy nickname. It's Skillet. I don't know. It's Fry Bread. I don't know.
You got to have a Skillet.
It was like an episode of Sanford and Son all of a sudden.
It absolutely was. If you watch Sanford and Son, there's
a few people from this movie that are actually in Sanford and Son.
Oh, no question.
The doctor.
No question. If you watch his IMDb, he was in all the greatest hits. He was in Star Trek Next Generation, like you said.
Right. And Blacula was in original Star Trek.
Yep. Yeah. It all ties together.
I think the doctor was also in What's Happening.
We can look it up when we get to behind the scenes.
Oh, we're all over the scene. We're just making a scene.
Because Blacula comes in there, he's wearing like a fancy tuxedo, and he has like a cape that he walks on. Skillet's like, man, where can I get a cape like that? I gotta get that cape. That's one weird looking dude.
That's one. Okay, my God, we got to work that into the next family get together. That's some weird looking dude.
Skillet brought nothing to the table other than comic relief.
Somebody Skillet. We got your next daughter needs to be named Skillet.
Oh, no question. I might change the name of one I have. From now on, you are Skillet. So then, of course, because it's a fancy club, there are people coming around taking pictures. When he gets his picture taken, he immediately goes, I must leave now. I have a prior engagement, and walks off.
Okay, I got a big problem with this.
Jump in.
Because, one, he just woke up out of the grave like a minute ago.
Right.
And last I remember in 1780, do people even know what photography is? I mean, I know Matthew Brady was out there in the Civil War, but does this dude even know what a freaking camera is?
Of course not.
And how does he know he should be concerned about it? There was no one to tell him what's what.
You're absolutely right. This is the only time the whole vampire's reflection seems to pop up. There's no he's hiding from mirrors. All the vampires have shadows. It's hard to say what's going on.
Yeah, that really made no sense.
So smash cut to the waitress. Oh God, there was a line where she's like, "Well, I'm going to go to the dark room and take care, develop these pictures." And Skillet's like, "Want some company?" And she says, "If I go in a dark room with you, something else is going to develop."
Chicka down.
Oh, good times. So she's developing the pictures, and of course you see like everyone else but the Blacula, excuse me.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, that's peculiar," and of course Blacula has followed her home and promptly sucks her blood, and that's the end of old picture taking girl. Very sad.
Yeah. Peace in the Middle East.
So again, Dr. Gordon goes and talks to his buddy down at the precinct, Lieutenant Peters, who's the sensitive white officer, who is like, "Okay, I'll help you out any way I can," basically. But again, Dr. Peters is like, "I'm not going to tell you. I think this is a vampire situation." Okay, but Dr. Gordon is like, "This is obviously vampires." Earlier in the movie, Blacula's tries to chase what's her name across the street, Tina, and gets hit by a cab.
Proceeds to chomp on the cabbie.
But the cabbie was also recognizable. I'm like, I've seen you before too. And she was a sassy cab driver.
Yeah,
she was telling
it like it is.
Yeah, so she gets bit on the neck for her troubles.
Yeah.
Then we meet the coroner. Do you notice the coroner had like a hook for a hand?
Oh my God!
For no reason.
I dig this. I was just watching The Big Sleep with Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. You realize this guy was in that?
Oh, his name is. I'm not going to tell you what his name is because I can't seem to find it. Eliza something Cook Jr.
Eliza Minnelli.
He was also in Rosemary's Baby.
Yes, he was.
Yep. He was in The Big Sleep. He's in The Maltese Falcon.
By far was probably the biggest name in this whole thing.
Yeah. And he had like a third-rate part as the one-handed county coroner.
Yeah. As the town idiot.
As a town idiot. Again, with a hook for a hand for no reason.
Which is clearly he's holding the hook and they put some gauze to cover up his fist.
Yeah, one arm was like twice as long as the other. It was very strange.
It was like one of my Halloween costumes from college where you're like, yeah, just wrap it around. No, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, Lord. So, the plot is very interesting. So there's a lot of back and forth.
Tell you, I mean, it's a good movie.
I have seen, unlike some people I can mention, I have seen Blacula multiple times. I actually owned it back in the 90s.
Oh,
if you can believe that.
Do you have a special warehouse for just the bad movies that you keep purchasing?
I do. As a matter of fact. I watched Blacula and the sequel, Scream, Blacula, Scream, starring Pam Grier, not 12 months ago.
Oh, my.
There you go. I watched it and the sequel. So there you have it. Pam Grier.
What's better, this one or the sequel?
They're both probably equal quality.
All right.
Take that for what it is.
All right.
Pam Grier is a voodoo priestess, so they have to deal with that whole issue. So good times. Over the course of the movie, Blacula kind of institutes himself into Tina's life, where it's like now this is her boyfriend.
Oh yeah, it's chicken down from like the minute. But he's a total gentleman, unlike some of the other vampire movies. Hey, either you come to me willingly, or I want none of this. And I'm not going to. And on top of that, I'm not even going to contact you. The ball's in your court. And he's walking out, and she practically like leaps upon him, offering herself as a sacrifice.
Well, she doesn't know
I don't got to beg for it.
That's true. Early, he doesn't tell her what he is, but he eventually admits it, and she's not that concerned about it. She's like, okay.
We all have to make our choices.
Pretty much, because you're right. He's a sensitive lover. You know what I'm saying? He's buying her flowers and lighting candles and doing all the things he needs to do.
They were doing it until like sunrise. I mean, he was piecing out like the roosters at the neighbor's house were starting to crow.
No question. He would hold her all night.
Yeah,
that's what she needed. He was down for that.
Boom.
Now he was a mad dog killer to everybody else he met on the street.
People just don't understand him. He's different when we're together.
That's right. Sweet Lord. So, Dr. Gordon figures all this stuff out. There's a scene later where they go to the morgue to visit the cab driver, to visit her body. And, of course, the idiot mortician takes her out of the ice box to thaw. And he's like, make sure you lock that door. And he doesn't. The phone rings. He forgets to unlock the door. So she's running down the hall all vamped out. That was a creepy scene. When she's running down the hall about to get him. Oh,
let me just say something. Did you notice anything strange about how she looked when she was running down the hall?
What did they say? That her outfit had changed for no reason?
Yes, for no apparent reason. 1 minute she has some kind of fitted bath cover up like I had in like the 70s that just kind of tucked under your armpit over your bathing suit. And the next minute she's running down the hall. So she's zombified up, got up, changed clothes.
Yep.
into some kind of hospital gown and now comes flying down the hall.
Yep.
Made no damn sense.
She was on a slab, for God's sakes. She was on a slab. She jumps up, and I guess she finds a closet. She's like changing clothes.
She's like, I can't be running down the hall with this terry cloth thing that just wraps around under my armpits. I need a full outfit change. now I got to build up my rage to come howling down the hallway.
Pretty much. There's a scene where Dr. Gordon is talking to his buddy, Lieutenant Peters. And he's like, would you go investigate, this crime, get the information, get the files, blah, blah, blah. And Lieutenant Peters is like, I don't know if I can do that. And Dr. Gordon turns to me, he's like, come on, Jack, don't cop out.
Don't cop out, Jack.
See, this is 1972.
Pearls.
One point, he sends Barnes, the kind of nondescript white police officer, and he goes to the photographer's house, who's laying on like her front stoop, going, help me. And he picks her up like he's going to take her somewhere and quickly gets bit.
That's it.
She gets him. She gets him
on.
quick. Boom.
So now King of Cartoons is spilling his seed across the greater Los Angeles. Vampires are springing up everywhere.
They are everywhere. There's no place to go. And of course, we don't see Barnes again till later in the movie. Oh, good Lord. So now all this stuff's going down. Eventually, Michelle and Gordon are convincing Tina that they should maybe not be going out with crazy vampires. What do you think? Not so much?
There might be something wrong with your relationship.
Right. Might be a bad move. The people who've died from the attacks from Blacula have disappeared from the morgue, from the morticians, whatever. They're disappearing. So there's like there's a citywide APB. Now all the cops are in. Lieutenant Peters like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this. Because they had seen the crazy vampire people, or the vampire woman chasing down the hall. So they saw so now he's a believer. Now the word is out. So they have a stakeout. They're chasing Blacula. The cops show up. This is a reoccurring scene in the theme in the movie.
Hold still.
Please.
Still. I think you missed something.
I'm jumping all over the place. Jump in.
How about the scene where the doctor convinces his girlfriend, let's go out to that graveyard and dig up the other interior decorator's coffin.
That's correct.
Interior decorator was code for gay, even back then, too.
Back then, yes.
Even for back then. So, and she's like, no. And then she's like, okay.
Well, because they tried to get... Yes.
No.
This is a crime even in 1972.
How are you going to entice me? I mean, I've seen Goodfellas.
Right.
I get the basic concept. If someone's been dead for a while, they're going to get real stinky.
Oh, no question.
Nasty. There is nothing I don't know how much money would have to be buried in the coffin for me to actually do it, but it's going to be a lot. But you can sweet talk me from here till doomsday. No.
Hey, Jack, don't cop out.
No. Quite frankly, I don't even want to dig a hole that deep. So
no. Well,
much less what lays on the other side of it.
No question. Best case scenario, it's a rotting corpse. Worst case scenario,
if your
it's a vampire.
Came to you, Kevin, what exactly would she have to promise you to get you to go with her to dig up a grave?
We're talking, this is a regular Tuesday night at the Doherty house. You know what I'm saying? It would take a lot.
It would take a lot.
It would take a lot.
That's like the Addams Family. Wasn't that one of their games? Wake the Dead, where you just dig up and yell into the hole. the Raul Julia Addams Family, not some new bullshit one.
Not the new bullshit one. No, but you're right. So they tried to get like the police officer to get like a court order or something so they could exhume the other body. But of course, no, we're not. That's not going to happen. Sorry, buddy. So he's like, well, we'll just do it ourselves then, honey. It's date night. we'll hit the graveyard, dig it up. By the way, digging up a grave with just a shovel, how long do you think that would take, by the way?
6 feet deep?
Yeah, good luck.
I get tired digging a hole to plant a tomato. Let's just say that.
No question.
I'm gonna have to go sit down and watch some TV now. No. It's ridiculous.
Now, one thing that's interesting is that throughout the movie, it's established that the vampires have super strength.
I'm still obsessed about it. It's not like you're just tunneling a hole down to it. You have to clear out all around it to be able to open it.
Yes.
So it has to be wider than the coffin all the way down.
Yep. Yeah, it would take some time. One person with a shovel. Good luck.
With your girlfriend just sitting there holding a flashlight.
Yeah. It would take a long time. Good grief.
Good grief.
This is the first time that we see Dr. Gordon on the case. When a vampire attacks him, he's able to basically beat up these vampires with just his bare fists or a stick. I mean, earlier we see the vampires throwing people around with little ease, or with the greatest of ease. He's kicking ass all over the place.
He's a badass.
So he quickly stakes that dude in the ground.
And then hits it down with a shovel, and his girlfriend thinks that he's murdering them.
Yes. You're killing him! He's green, number one. No, he's been buried for 4 days. So, yeah. He's not doing so hot regardless. So, yeah. So now we all know vampires are on the loose. What I was going to say is that throughout this movie, there are scenes where cops are chasing vampires with seemingly no way to kill a vampire, right? Just chasing them. So it's like the cop chases Blacula down an alley. Blacula comes out and goes, ha, 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 ha. And he pulls out a gun and shoots Blacula 6 times. Doesn't do anything.
No.
Does not do anything. Blacula laughs and then promptly bashes him against the wall. That's the end of that guy. Later, they go to a warehouse and find 20 vampires roaming around. Again, no way to defeat them. They happen to find here's some oil lamps. Thank goodness.
We know what vampires are, but we're not really sure what to do with them.
Right. This makes a reoccurring theme. It's like, we're going to send 20 cops into a place with a bunch of vampires with no way to defeat them. They all have guns, but we know guns don't work. There's a lot of scenes of the cops shooting a vampire and going, oh no, and then just getting killed. Later in the movie, they're like, Lieutenant Peters is like, hey, if you see the vampire, don't approach, just call to us, we'll take care of it. What? That's the plan? Dr. Peters at one point pulls a cross out of his jacket.
A gigantic cross.
A gigantic cross, fine, but what? How about we give crosses to everybody? What do you think about that plan? Go down to the store, buy some popsicle sticks, glue them together, and you're good to go. How much does that take? No, we're just going to send these guys in there with just their guns that are worthless, just to be cannon fodder.
Can't you just use your fingers to make a little cross symbol? Does that work?
I'm not sure that does work, but give it a shot.
I'll give it a shot next time I'm in a pinch.
Oh, sweet Lord. So the cops, there's a citywide stakeout. They see the one interior decorator who died 5 minutes into the movie. He's now walking around with some other dude. And this is when they start dropping a lot of those F words like we were talking about earlier. Hey, there's that one. They all look alike to me. One of them says, what? That's offensive on many different levels.
I think that was supposed to be a joke about black people.
Okay. Good time, 1972.
It's 1972 to be like, haha, that's what they always say about us, and now we're saying it about these folks.
Yeah, good times. So they chase them, the cops chase these guys into the warehouse, like we said, and it's a trap. It's a trap. There's, 2 cops, there's Lieutenant Peters, and there's Dr. Gordon are in there, and now suddenly there are 20 vampires rolling out. Some of them are green. They all have fangs. Some are wearing weird robes for some reason. We don't know what's going on. We only saw Blacula bite like 3 people up to this point, but suddenly there's a million other vampires. The word is spreading. They're coming out of the woodwork. But again,
it's like a virus.
It's like a virus. Again, none of these guys have any way to defeat them. One of the cops quickly gets eaten, overcome by the vampires, gets eaten. The other cop is Barnes, who disappeared earlier in the movie. Now he's back. Guess what? He's also a vampire. He just immediately now I'm also a vampire. So some people get bit and they're a vampire 5 seconds later. Some people have to go to the morgue and it takes like a week and a half and they become a vampire.
Incubate like the coronavirus.
Some people get bit and then go on to work for another 3 days, and then finally decide to become a vampire.
It's a slow burn.
It's a slow burn. It's hard to know what's going on. So Dr. Gordon and Lieutenant Peters are like, oh no, what do we do? Oh wait, hang on, there are these oil lamps. So they quickly pick up the oil lamps and start throwing it, burning the place down, essentially around them. Another vampire jumps out from the bushes, tries to fight Lieutenant Peters. Luckily, Dr. Gordon is there to do some kung fu, hits him with a broomstick, kicks him in the head, and then leaps on him and impales him with the end of the stick, killing him. So they escape. The warehouse burns up. Very upsetting. That was actually a freaky scene, though. When they're in there in the dark warehouse and suddenly vampires are popping up out of everywhere, I enjoyed that scene a great deal. So now, okay, we're calling more cops in on this, and they're like, okay, well, we're going to have like neighborhood watch. There's a million cops out there. Please disperse. Everyone return to your homes or we'll declare martial law. Return to your homes. Basically, at this point, Tina is being used as bait. It's like, we're all going to watch Tina, and hopefully, if Blacula comes up, we'll get him. That's the plan. Again, get him. We have no way of doing anything about him, but we'll see what we can do. There's no garlic in this movie. There's no holy water. The first cross appears with 5 minutes left in the movie. So, good planning.
So I think their plan is enough that he'll just say screw it and commit. Oh, I guess that's what happened.
Basically, he calls to Tina psychically, I guess, and then she walks out of the building like a zombie. And they figure out that they've gone to an underground chemical plant. That's where Blacula's coffin is. Earlier, after the burning of the warehouse, Blacula appears in front of Peters and Gordon and says something along the lines of, I could very easily kill you now, but I guess I'll do it later instead. And then turns into a bat and flies away.
Oh, my God. Now you have him sounding like the Count from Sesame Street. 1, 2, 3.
Basically. Oh, God. So, again, they go into the underground chemical plant, 20 cops, and one by one, they are bashed against the wall, they're strangled, they're thrown off a high ledge.
Barrels thrown.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. There's some dude working at the chemical plant who's like, hey, what's going on here? And later, Blacula appears in front of him. And he goes, oh, hey, he's here, guys. Get here. Oh, no.
Oh, no.
That's the end of that guy. Oh, God.
Who'd have thunk it?
I know. So Tina is still kind of entranced, and she's going off with Blacula. And a cop comes around the corner, and I swear to God, the cop closes his eyes and just starts shooting. And, of course, bullets don't affect Blacula, but they do affect poor Tina, who's promptly gunned down. At which point, Blacula's like, oh, I did not want this for you. And then sucks her blood. Okay, this is the only way for us to be together. So, sucks her blood.
And then what?
And then we don't see what's going on. Dr. Gordon and Lieutenant Peters find a coffin and it's Blacula's coffin, so they're all around it. They're all around it. Michelle is watching. There's a couple other rando cops that are standing there.
I remember. I blacked out for a minute. Now I remember what happened.
And so Lieutenant Peters is over it with like a stake, and Dr. Gordon's about to rip open the lid. 1, 2, 3, whips it open, brings down the stake, stabs it, and it's Tina! Poor Tina!
Ah! And now, she's all vamped out with weird spots of gray hair.
Yes.
Very trying being a vampire. It turns you from 20 to about 75.
Right. She's all vamped out. She's got the Bride of Frankenstein hair going on there. She screams for 20 minutes very loudly. Michelle's very upset. Dr. Peters, not Dr. Peters. Lieutenant Peters and Dr. Gordon are both kind of like, what's going on? Blacula appears. He's kind of upset, as you might imagine, because it's like, this was the only thing that I wished to live for, and you've taken it away. And Dr. Gordon pulls out a huge cross out of his jacket pocket. And
I'm
Blacula's
surprised he wasn't just leaning sideways. This thing is so big.
It was huge. You could basically crucify somebody on that bad boy.
The Pope doesn't have a crucifix this big.
Now, Blacula sees the cross and says, "You won't be needing that," and promptly walks off. And they're like, okay, I guess deuces then. They let him walk out. They follow him. He walks out into the sunlight because now it's broad daylight for some reason. And promptly turns to a wormy, smoldering pile, and that's the end of the movie. So he was very sad. He committed suicide because, like you said, evidently that was their plan. Hopefully, will annoy Blacula so much that he'll just commit suicide.
Because there is no other plan.
There's no plan B. There's no plan B.
He could have just left.
Yes. Well, they let him go. You won't need that. I'm out of here.
Tina could have just pulled up in a car. They could have just said deuces.
Right. They didn't try to stop him. He's like, I gotta go. No, okay. See ya. That's the end of Blacula until like a year or so later when Blacula Scream was on the scene there. So good times. Had by all. Any other observations or reflections that you'd like to say?
I would say this is not a bad movie.
It's not bad. It's not
There's
bad.
a lot of criticism about it, and I saw there's like a documentary on black horror films, but I haven't seen it yet. Something about something noir genre.
Horror noir.
Horror noir.
Yes. About African American horror movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really probably should have watched that before we did this review, but I didn't.
I forgot. There was a scene that was hilarious. So earlier in the movie, they're all sitting at the bar having drinks. Blacula sits down and he says, champagne, we'll have champagne. And Dr. Gordon's like, no, that won't be necessary. At which point, his girlfriend Michelle's like, speak for yourself.
Exactly.
It's like, why are you being like that? Very strange.
He was still in the thunder away from the doctor.
But who would say, hey, I know you want to order champagne for the table. No, you can't. I refuse to allow it.
It was a much more alpha male time, But before we had all your Kevin toxic masculinity.
It is true.
You're like, clearly you're trying to show me up in front of my woman. How dare you, sir? I say, how dare you?
Good day, sir. That's hilarious. And there's also some issues with the dark room where she was developing the photos. She kept opening that GD curtain every 5 minutes.
First of all, a dark room is not a curtain in your kitchen. Let me just say that. I don't know if you know this, but photography is sensitive to any light.
I think if you just have an old curtain, like a shower curtain hung up in your kitchen, you're good. You're good.
He just closed the blinds. It's good enough.
I swear to God, she swung the curtains open 3 times while the film was developing.
She's in and out. She's developing film.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's all good.
Good times. Any other crazy observations?
I have a camera kind of like the one she was using, just to tell you.
So where do you hang your shower curtain?
I don't develop film. It's very frustrating.
Oh, well, that's upsetting.
I send it away. I pay others to do it for me. They have computers now who do all that. Did you take photography in college?
I took, I think, one class, like a summer school in junior high, I think.
It's so much dodging and burning and tweaking and getting all these, it could be days to get one print like perfect. Oh.
Well, remember, Dad had turned his closet into a dark room when we were very, very young.
Yes.
It was like the twins were like 1 year old or
They
something.
were celebrating the birth of the twins.
Yes.
Did you ever notice that our father constantly takes pictures, but no one ever sees the pictures? It's like Rosemary's Baby, where they open up the back of the camera, there's no film in it. Do you not notice that? No one has ever seen any pictures that Dad takes.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
It is a mystery.
Let's go. If you're done with your observations, let's go behind the scenes.
All right, who you want to talk about? We already talked about the King of Cartoons, who was also in the original Star Trek.
Well, one thing that's interesting is that originally Blacula's alter ego was supposed to be named Andrew Brown. And the actor William Marshall was like, you know what? We're not doing some crazy old blaxploitation thing here.
Black and brown, is that what it's supposed to be?
I guess. Or it was just kind of like he was from Harlem or something. So they said, I'm going to totally rewrite the backstory. So now he's an African prince named Mama Walde, and try to give the character more dignity.
Of
so
course.
It's not like he's not Skillet, basically. Skillet.
Oh my God.
Gilla.
Although I might kind of like the crazy Skillet is a vampire show. That could be entertaining too.
I want a movie.
It's kind of a Fridays kind of event.
All I want is just a movie called
Ice Cube
Skillet.
was a vampire and it was Fridays.
I want Skillet. Just give me the movie Skillet! ! That's all I need. 2 hours of Skillet doing Skillet things. Other thing is, there were like long, like basically a music video in the middle of this with the singers.
Oh, the strange singers. And the lead singer with the trouser snake. I was mesmerized. It's been nobody wears their pants like that anymore. And I totally had a Bee Gees posters where you could just literally see everything.
You can tell their religion is what you're saying. Their pants are so tight. You can
tell their religion, what side they're wearing it. Oh my God, it was like a Billy Squier video.
What was the song they were singing? It was like, don't let him follow you.
And her dancing was so unnatural and strange.
I'm gonna knock your socks off. That group was the Hughes Corporation who had the hit
Rock the Boat, rock the boat, baby. Shut your mouth.
That is correct. That is correct. In their feature film debut and the last thing they were in, as far as I know.
Well, that was probably for the best. It was strange. I mean, they definitely had these songs that they were singing at the club had nothing to do like rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby, rock the boat, don't tip the boat over.
Yeah,
maybe that's what they should have been singing.
They had that song 2 years later, so this is before they were big.
All right,
back when they were just the
Blacula
house band. Thank you. That's what I do here. This is what I bring to the table.
I was trying to do my research at work, but every side is blocked. Sorry, block. I'm sure there's a report going to someone administration that I was flagged 20 times in the evening.
Oh, no. Well, just because you visit other sites at school that you probably shouldn't be doing. Sweet Jesus. Let me look at what some of the main actors have done. We talked about William Marshall was Blacula.
Yeah.
His big things, he was in Maverick, that 94 Mel Gibson movie, just as a random poker player on the riverboat. That's his number one. Then, of course, Blacula and Blacula Scream a year later.
And, of course, the King of Cartoons.
King of Cartoons. And he was in an episode of the original Star Trek series, Dr. Richard Daystrom. So there you go.
I swear, like I have a vision of him in Star Trek. Like somehow I remember it.
Well, what's funny is I thought he was kind of European because of his
I
diction
thought
and everything.
exactly. I was shocked because I saw when I was skimming through his stuff. I saw some BBC stuff. I'm like, he's probably European. No,
Nope, Gary, Indiana.
but he's classically
Yes.
trained. I mean, yeah, Gary. That ain't no Indiana accent. He don't sound like Letterman.
Vonetta McGee, who played Tina, her big things that she worked on was Repo Man. You saw
Yes,
that with
that was
Emilio
real.
Estevez. She also was in The Eiger Sanction
I
3
never
years
saw
later
that.
with Clint Eastwood. And Shaft in Africa a few years later. I love Shaft in Africa. I love all the Shaft movies. If you haven't seen them, check them out.
I've never seen any of the Shaft movies.
Shaft 1 is dynamite. Shaft's big score is even better. Shaft in Africa is a little weaker than that, but check out those. Then Michelle was played by Denise Nicholas, who was in, like I said, In the Heat of the Night. She was in Capricorn 1.
And she was married to Ain't No Sunshine in This No, Only Darkness Every Day.
She was. One of her marriages was to Bill Withers, is the name you're looking for.
Not DMX.
Did not DMX. No. Let me
Because
see
I
who
started
else.
drifting into the DMX lyrics.
Then you got Dr. Gordon was played by Thalmus Rasulala, who was in Above the Law with
he was
Steven
by
Seagal.
far one of the hardest working men in showbiz. It was him and the dude from The Big Sleep. This guy was in every blessed thing in America.
He was in New Jack City. He was in Roots.
I think he produced New Jack City too.
Good grief. He is the hardest working man in show business, no question.
Indeed. I immediately recognized him. First, I thought he was Gordon from Sesame Street because of the stash.
Because his name was Gordon.
There was multiple Gordons, though, back in the day.
Okay, and Skillet. I gotta look this up. Skillet was played by Jitu Kumbuka. Okay, Skillet was in Mandingo. He was in Brewster's Millions. He was in Harlem Nights, and he was in Bachelor Party with Tom Hanks.
None of these movies I've ever seen.
Very upsetting. Very upsetting. It's what I'm trying to say is this movie is peopled with actors you have absolutely seen before.
Absolutely. Hard-working actors that were paying their bills. There was nobody in here. Even like the police chief was in 1,000. He's won like 1,000 awards and everything.
Let's see. I will tell you who he is. Lieutenant Jack Peters was played by Gordon Pinsent, who was in The Shipping News, The Grand Seduction, Due South.
I saw Shipping News.
So he's still working today.
Yes, but you know who he wasn't is his co-star from Shipping News. He ain't working today.
It's a very sad situation.
You don't even know who I'm talking about.
I don't even know.
It's what's his name from The Usual Suspects?
Kevin Spacey?
Yes.
Thank you.
Kevin Spacey was the star of the Shipping News.
Oh, sweet Lord.
It's very depressing little film.
I'm going to tell you, if you have the opportunity to see Blacula, Run, Don't Walk, check it out.
I say it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Definitely better than Night of the Comets.
Very upsetting.
You make some popcorn, you snuggle in a blanket. I say yes.
It's good. Check out the whole Blacula oeuvre, if you will. Like I said, Blacula Scream, Dr. Black and Mr. Hyde. Check out, what else? All sorts of good stuff.
I have not seen Blackenstein. Did you see Blackenstein?
No one has seen Blackenstein. But if you have the chance, check it out. Good Lord.
Tell us how Blackenstein was if you've seen it.
Blackenstein. Who makes this stuff, man?
I don't know.
I'll tell you what.
I think I should be hired to come up with names for movies. I think that'd be my perfect job.
What though? I am Mr. Blaxploitation. I have seen all of these movies. Like I said, I've seen all the Shaft movies. I saw Superfly. I saw 3 the hard way with Jim Brown, Jim Kelly, and Fred Williamson. So here you go. Good times.
I ain't even heard of this, but I am a girl, so.
Yeah. Well, Jim Kelly was famous for being in Enter the Dragon. If you ever saw Enter the Dragon, he was also Black Belt Jones. So
now I may have seen Enter the Dragon at some point in my life, but Black Belt Jones I have not seen.
I'm giving you all the details. Fred Williamson was a football player.
Which Bruce Lee was the one with Texas Walker Ranger, where it looks like he's wearing a fur sweater. He's so freaking hairy, like a beast.
I think that's Game of Death.
Okay.
Game of Death, and I think that was kind of made partially posthumously, if I remember. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was in that one as well, shockingly enough.
I believe you are correct.
Thank you. So check it all out. Go to our page. I didn't even tell you where to go. Go to our page on
wait
Facebook.
A minute. You're getting ahead of yourself.
What? You got more to say?
I got a message on Twitter from a fan.
Lay it on me.
Well, Christopher C. from I don't know where sent me a message on. I don't want to say his whole name. I don't know what the etiquette for this is.
Okay.
But just shot a message saying they totally enjoyed the Rosemary Baby episode. And I agree. That's probably one of our better episodes. Love that movie.
It's a good one. It's a classic. Spread the word, won't you? I was telling you can even listen to us on Alexa. If you have an Alexa in your house and you're like, I don't want to listen on my device, I want to listen on my Alexa. You say Alexa. Okay, now the Alexa next to me is looking at me. You say, Alexa, play the podcast that wouldn't die on Apple Podcasts. And it will pop up and start playing the latest episodes. So check that out. Go to our page on Facebook at the Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You can also email us at the Podcast That Wouldn't Die at Gmail. Like, share, subscribe, rate, spread the word on. And I have to say, you have to follow us on both Twitter and Facebook because they're totally different feeds. I post things on Twitter.
In case you don't know that.
Right.
I just got an email from Anchor, too, that on something called Overcast.
That is correct. It's not just about the weather anymore. So check it out. Check it out. Good times. So thank you very much for joining us, and...
You forgot to mention.
Oh, sorry.
Forgot to mention my Twitter account.
Aaron, you're also on Twitter.
Yes, I am the Cult of Aaron.
So go to the Cult of Aaron and join the cult. And
join the cult.
Join that cult. So thank you very much, and be well.
Be well, my friends, and watch 90 Day Fiancé and the new Pope.